Thank you so much for joining tonight. The format of our event this evening is mainly going to be discussions, and we have some lovely panelists with us tonight who will be, exploring a few different topics. So throughout the event, we're going to be jumping between showing short films, which kind of support what it is that we're speaking about, and then the discussions as well. We'll also be putting a few links in the chat of some videos that we won't necessarily show during the event, but there are some additional videos that just support what it is that we're talking about. And like I said before, if you have any tech issues or anything, just let us know. So I'm going to pass it over to one of our panelists tonight, Mike Douglas. Mike is going to talk a little bit about POW and introduce himself to us.
Thanks a lot, Ali. I'd like to acknowledge that I am on the shared territory of the Squamish Nation, Lil'wat Nation. And if anyone's ever been to Whistler before and seen the Black Tusk, our iconic sort of spiky mountain, you know that you're in the shared territory when you can see the Black Tusk. That's how they traditionally mark when it's shared time and then when it's not. So interesting little tidbit there. I want to give you guys a little bit of the backstory about how Protect Our Winters Canada came to be. Protect Our Winters down in the US was started by Jeremy Jones, pro snowboarder, back in 2007. And Jeremy had been traveling the world and doing his thing and really started to see the effects of climate change with his own eyes, and kind of looked at what was going on and couldn't find a group that he identified with that spoke his language when it came to how we're going to address this issue. So he founded one, got his buddies together in the beginning, and that whole thing snowballed and eventually became Protect Our Winters. I probably came to know Protect Our Winters around 2010. They landed on my radar, and I was a fan right away because here were some people that looked like me and spoke like me and talked the same lingo and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, yeah, I get behind what they're saying. I'm seeing the same things. And flash forward a few years down the road, and I eventually became a member of Protect Our Winters and an athlete ambassador. So after doing that for a couple of years, we realized that climate is a global issue. It's not just an issue in the US, and it was time to start a chapter in Canada. And so there were a few of us athletes, myself, Greg Hill, Chris Rubens, Murray Francois, Tobin Siegel, and Ian McIntosh, who were really sort of the first ones that started talking about how we were going to do this. We eventually got introduced to Dave Erb, who's now our executive director, and everything started rolling from there. And that would be, I want to say we got the ball rolling in 2018, and I believe we officially launched in 2019. So it's been an awesome journey so far. I think one of the best things that we've been able to do at Protect Our Winters Canada, and that's a little bit different than what has happened in the US, is create these community chapters. And I've had the good fortune to be in Ottawa actually about a year and a half ago when this chapter was founded, and being in a room of people that were inspired to make a difference was something that I'll always remember. And I think it's so cool because we now have over 10 of these chapters across Canada, and everyone's doing their own thing and activating in their own ways in their own communities. And I think that's super important. If you're new to POW Canada or maybe, a member, but not really aware of what we stand for, I'll read you our mission statement. And it goes like this. Our mission is to turn passionate outdoor people into effective climate advocates. Protect Our Winters Canada is a passionate community of enthusiasts, professional athletes, and industry brands uniting the outdoor community to advocate for policy solutions to climate change. We believe our love of adventure in nature demands our participation in the fight to save and protect it. So that's something that we worked on, and is something that sort of drives all our decision making. We also put together I think we finished it up about a year ago, our policy, and I'll just briefly touch over some of the pillars. Our number one thing is we want to make sure that Canada holds up its commitment to the Paris Agreement in terms of its emission targets. We want to power up with renewables, which means make sure that our energy moving forward is shifting toward renewables. Power up with carbon pricing. Carbon pricing is already proven to be the most effective way of getting rid of the bad stuff and helping to promote the good stuff. So we are behind that 100%. Powerful incentives. We want to make sure that government and policymakers and brands are pushing people in the right direction in trying to get them to do the right thing. And of course, we don't want to leave anyone behind. We realize that there's a lot of transition that's going to happen, and we have to make sure that we empower Canadians and we have a just transition, and no one gets lost in the shuffle here. So that's kind of where we stand at Protect Our Winters Canada. I like to look at our organization as it's tough to find a good term, but like cheerleaders for a movement. We want to create the biggest ball of energy that we can in a positive way that will get people to get behind good policy and decision making, be it with governments or be it with brands, and trying to really shuffle people to do the right thing. And I want to finish my little spiel here with a quote that I read recently in a book. And I don't know if anyone, I just finished Bill Gates's book, How to Avoid a Climate Disaster. It's excellent if anyone is looking for some good reading material on the subject. But this is a quote from Yuval Noah Harari, who is an acclaimed historian. And I'm a big fan of his work. If you've read the book Sapiens, you know who I'm talking about. But if you haven't heard of him, look him up. He's got some really great insights on humans and this planet we live on. And here's a quote from his book called 21 Lessons for the 21st Century. To change the world, you need to act. And even more important, you need to organize. 50 members cooperating in an organization can accomplish far more than 500 individuals, each working in isolation. If you really care about something, join a relevant organization and do it this week. So that one hit close to home for me, because I've already seen, you know, what this POW group can do when we get together and we unite behind a movement, and we're gaining some power. And I thank you all for being here today. It's really great.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. That was a phenomenal introduction. And yeah, I really like that quote. That is very fitting. So like I said, Mike is going to be one of our panelists this evening. And then we also have Miro and Jen joining us as well. So I'll just hand it over to both of you for a moment and just give you a minute to introduce yourselves to the group and just tell us whatever it is you think everyone would need to know.
I guess I'll go first. Hi, my name is Maro LeBlanc. I live in Oceanside, California, which was originally Kumeyaay, which is northern Baja and southern California. They were settled there. I manage North American marketing for Picture, also PR for them. And then I also manage North American PR for Blizzard Technica. And I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hi, I'm Jen Swain. I'm with Burton Snowboards. I'm calling in from Burlington, Vermont, on Abenaki land of the Missisquoi. I direct global sustainability for Burton. So that's everything from the sourcing and operations through to marketing, communications, advocacy, and consumer engagement. And Burton's really proud to be strong brand partners of POW Canada, POW US, POW Europe, and POW Japan as well. So really excited to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you all.
Thank you so much, Miro and Jen. We also have a fourth panelist who is Florian Paluel, and Florian is from France. And so Andrew and I had a call with him last week, and we just recorded all of our question and answer segments with him. And so we're just going to play his introduction for you quickly. Because of the time change, he couldn't join us on the actual event.
So thank you very much for having me first. It's a real pleasure to have the opportunity to talk about picture, to talk about climate change and about the textile industry and the board sports industry. So I'm Florian, I'm the sustainability manager at Picture. So basically my work is to improve every aspect of our business from an environmental and social point of view. So I work with all departments at Picture, from supply chain, materials, logistic, marketing, human resources as well. So about Picture, we've been committed since day one, but there is still so much to do when it comes to fighting climate change. So yeah, we try to do our fair share and to do it in the best possible way, which is, in my opinion, to listen to science. So in my work, I have to say I'm largely influenced by what experts in the fields of climate and energy are saying and publishing. And most of the time, what I read from experts, like, for example, IPCC reports, for sure, it's not directly connected with the textile industry. But at the end, this is precisely what I love. I mean, making the connection between worldwide climate issues and greenhouse gases emission causes, and making this connection with our activity to make sure we are addressing the right topic and talking about the right thing with a kind of science relevancy, science credibility in a way. So for example, the topic of carbon neutrality for companies, it is full of misunderstanding. It's crazy. So I prefer first listening to what those guys, climate scientists, are saying about it, and then do the job at Picture. So this is my way of seeing things, of seeing my job. Apart from that, I'm a snowboarder. I mean, I'm not a pro, but I love that very much. I am a member of Pau France, and I'm also a member of a couple associations here in France promoting solution in the fight against climate change.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. So we are going to head over and speak with Andrew now. Andrew is going to give us a bit of an introduction on the circular economy.
So thanks, Ellie, and thank you to our guests for having come out tonight. It's been great. So kind of reverting back to something Mike had said. I was fortunate to be part of that session that Mike held here in Ottawa 18 months ago, and that was the impetus to becoming a local POW chapter member. And I encourage everybody who's on this call, if at all there's a chapter in your area, to come and help out. This is a passionate group of individuals with a lot of interest, so definitely. So the reason why we chose to do this subject specifically was that we were looking for something as an online event in April that would tie into both Earth Month and Earth Day, which is next week. And we've done a couple of things in the past, and then it dawned on us and that we're all gearheads. I mean, I think this season alone, all of us have managed to acquire something. I know I got another touring setup. Ali, you got new skis too, right? And Jules, who's part of our group, I know got another touring setup as well. And so what we wanted to do was highlight some of the efforts of the companies that we're fortunate enough to have to support POW Canada, and in the case of Picture, POW France as well. And so we thought, hey, this would be an interesting subject. Why don't we look at some of the efforts that those companies are doing and engage them in this conversation. So just to give you a heads up, we are going to be citing a bunch of sources in the chat. I have been a corporate sustainability practitioner in a past life. So although a lot of this information is stuff that, I've touched on in some point, way, shape, or form, the reality of it is that, there's resources out there that are far better than what I'm talking about. And so one of them that we've cited a lot is the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and we'll put that link up there. So for those of you who haven't heard about the circular economy or about the premise of the circular economy, the whole idea was put forward in a book published in 2002 called Cradle to Cradle: Remaking the Way We Make Things. And different from how we look at things now, which, I think people will reference as being a linear economy, where we use finite resources to create products with a finite lifespan that we'd eventually end up in landfills or incinerators. The premise of the circular economy and circular design is that items or services or products are designed to eliminate waste and pollution. They're designed to keep products and use them at their highest level, and they're designed to regenerate natural systems. And I think a lot of people mistakenly make the premise that this is some kind of really sophisticated recycling system. And although recycling is important, and I think that it's a great thing to do, it's better than the alternative, which is just throwing stuff out and getting it, putting it into landfills. It's not ultimately the best solution. And the reason being is, and I'll give an example here. Let's look at this water bottle. I had to actually go scrounging around my neighbor's recycling bins to get this. My neighbors already think I'm pretty weird as is, so no worries there. So the thing about this is that, if I recycle it, it's better than me throwing it in the garbage. But by recycling it, first of all, the process of recycling is never perfect. It's never perfectly efficient. So there's going to be matter lost in this process. Secondarily, it uses energy. It uses energy to end up moving the item from your house to the municipal recycling facility, to whoever ends up shredding it, and whoever ends up making other bottles out of it. And in a lot of cases, that energy might not end up coming from renewable resources. And ultimately, the biggest problem with this is that I lose the utility of what this bottle is made for, which is to drink water out of. So a better solution than recycling this is to have something that has a much more indefinite lifespan. So something that's prolonged that I can end up using for a much longer time. Notice the product plug here. I've had this water bottle for 5 years. So this is a much better solution. So just to give you a couple examples, and there's a lot more if you log on to to the Ellen MacArthur Foundation site. There's a company in the Netherlands called Gerard Street. They're a headphone manufacturer. The premise behind their headphones is really cool in that you're actually getting a product as a service. So you don't actually buy the headphone, you kind of lease the headphones. But the headphones themselves are designed in such a way that none of the items in the headphones are permanently attached to it. Everything can be replaced and repaired. And if there are upgrades that come downstream, you can actually end up upgrading the headphones in that same fashion. So, hopefully the lifespan of those headphones is much longer than you would typically end up getting. Another example that we end up citing is Patagonia, which, I think recently, maybe a couple of years ago, somebody can correct me here, started actually repurchasing used Patagonia clothing and reselling it through their own supply chain. So just selling it through their corporate stores and selling it through their online stores. So that's kind of a bit of a background. I'd encourage you to go out and find information out on your own. There's some great resources there. And what we're going to do now is we're going to show you a couple of short videos, one from Burton, one from Solomon, and then we'll get into the conversation with our guests.
Pour améliorer l'impact environnemental du site industriel de Salomon, cela passe par des actions très terrain et très techniques, comme le changement d'un groupe froid, le changement de chaudière, mais aussi de la sensibilisation du personnel, comme le recyclage et le tri.
From the US Open to company ride days to bringing our dogs to work, we've always tried to live our values and the lifestyle we helped create. Disruption and leading innovation on the mountain has always been a part of our DNA, and now we're seeing that through the lens of sustainability, which is really exciting and has also led us to set some pretty aggressive goals for 2020. We make products so that we can stay outside longer and enjoy the outdoors and enjoy the mountains. Unfortunately, you know, that process has a cost to the environment, so it's up to us to really minimize that impact. For 2020, Soft Goods is working towards a 100% blue sign goal, and in all of our product, we're always looking for ways to replace traditional materials with more sustainable and recycled materials in order to reduce emissions generated by the manufacturing process as well as the packaging process. We've focused on people since the beginning. In our supply chain, we're committed to working with world-class manufacturers that meet the highest global standards for human rights. We're committed to talking about this to raise awareness about how our products are made and use our voice to promote the highest standards possible. We've been making improvements at our offices throughout our supply chain, and we are continuing to find ways to reduce our footprint, create less waste, and just be more mindful of everything that we do. By ensuring that our own house is clean, it gives us the confidence to spread the word about sustainability. If we can do it, others in the industry can do it as well. That's why we're excited, along with other athletes and brands in the industry, to be a part of Protect Our Winters, which is actively lobbying for real policy change. Burton's done a good job of greening our own house, but it's really important that we speak up as an industry and as snowboarders and people who love the mountains in winter to say that global climate change is real and we can do something about it.
Hey there. That was great. So, Mike, Jen, you know, there's a lot of information to unpack there, and we'll have an opportunity to actually pull Maho and Florian back into the conversation a little bit. But maybe we can kind of talk about, you know, what are the roots of the initiatives that are talked about there? Where did they start? Who's involved in the decision making, and ultimately why are they important to the company? And Jen, I think the other thing is that video, you know, was dated for an objective of 2020, so it's obvious there's a lot of stuff that's, you know, that's now been, you know, moved forward as well. So maybe you can kind of talk about, you know, some of the objectives that you guys have set for the future too.
Great. Should I jump in?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, as you can see from the video, Donna Burton Carpenter, who is our owner and chair of the board, she's very passionate about sustainability, about taking action on climate. She really started partnering with Jeremy Jones back in 2013 on the advocacy side of things, realizing early on that we can do all that we need, all that we can within our own company on climate action, and it's not going to meaningfully put a dent in this problem that the world faces. So Burton's journey around sustainability has been, about a decade long at this point. It was started really grassroots style within the company. So Ali Kenny, who is now our Senior Vice President of Global Strategy, started the sustainability program in 2012 as a passion project. She used to work in our snowboard merchandising department, and this is something at night where she really recognized this opportunity for Burton to really step up. We had a lot of practices in place for social responsibility and some, interesting environmental pilots around product, but really to formalize the program and really make long-term commitments to both social and environmental responsibility. So we've had a few sets of goals along the way. And as you saw in the video, those were kind of our most recent goals that we've had out in the world, and really the most ambitious and comprehensive. So there were 12 goals in all that went from everything from packaging and products through to the labor within our supply chain in our own company, as well as the events like the Burton US Open Snowboarding Championships, and through to our advocacy activities as well, of course, with Protect Our Winters and other organizations. So really comprehensively looking at how are we improving our own impact, we kind of say greening our own house, and how are we also necessarily helping to create system change. And so we collaborate really closely as well throughout the outdoor industry and the snow sports industry on making change. So for us, we kind of reestablished our purpose last year as a company, and sustainability is really explicitly embedded within that. So we fight for the future of people, the planet, and our sport. And so right now what we're working on is just finalizing our 2025 goals. So if you want to tune in on Sunday, you can see the blog update of where we landed for 2020 goals and hear a little bit from the team that's been working on this project. It certainly is not just myself or my department. We work really cross-functionally throughout the organization. We've got about 1,000 employees around the world, many of whom have, had a hand in making this change with us. And right now we're looking at what comes next, what's most material, what can we really meaningfully make an impact on versus check a box for, and what can kind of be our moonshots for 2025 and beyond.
Thanks. Anybody want to chime in there?
It's Mike here. I can talk a little bit about what's going on at Salomon. And applause to you, Jen, and what you guys are doing at Burton, because I think it's really awesome. And I've had the pleasure of chatting with Donna, who works very closely with Pal down in the US, and Burton's all in, and I'm a big fan of what you guys are doing. When it comes to, I've been an athlete with Salomon now for almost 25 years, which is kind of crazy to say, but they've been a great partner of mine throughout. And as sustainability and climate became a more important issue in my life, I think for athletes, it's really easy to sort of like look at the best practice people and want to run there. And I think we all can say that Patagonia is sort of the leader in the outdoor industry when it comes to this space. And there was a time when I was like, oh, maybe I should become a Patagonia athlete because I'm really aligned with what they're doing. But as I thought about it more, I was like, well, that's not going to do any good, because Patagonia is really dialed in and they've got a great team working on this stuff, and they're ahead of everybody. And so I thought to myself, well, probably the best thing that I can do is start talking to the brands that I'm working with, and let's see if we can make some headway and get them sort of to try and catch up. And so I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago, the first conversations with Salomon around this topic started. And it wasn't just me. There was a group of athletes, many of them are POW ambassadors, that started talking to marketing management in the beginning, but later, the senior management team about, it's time to step up. And around that same time, a lot of the employees that were working for the brand, the designers and the product developers, really started to get into this stuff as well. And so it was kind of like a double-sided push that started happening. And it's been really exciting to see how that's developed over time, where the athletes are pushing for the brand to do more, set better targets, be more aggressive with the moves they're making. And then we've got the designers coming with innovation from their side. And there's a bunch of things that are happening now. I think Salomon's a little bit behind in certain ways, but at the same time, being a European brand, being based in France, I think that also puts them slightly ahead, because Europe in general compared to North America is quite a ways ahead when you just see the way they live on a day-to-day basis. But there's one product that's kind of exciting that I wanted to bring up, because it kind of illustrates sort of the thinking that I like that's going on there. And I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it's called the Index One running shoe. And so the design team set out to see if they could make a fully recyclable running shoe, so that you use your shoe and you put your miles down, and at the end you literally return it to the store. It goes into a bin, gets melted down, and becomes ski boots. And so they started from sort of like the back end of the process and figured out, like, okay, if we did that, what could we turn this into? And they worked backwards toward this running shoe. The idea initially was to make it out of one material. In the end, they had to settle on two, and that was mainly due to durability. But the Index One is kind of an exciting project. It's not going to change the world, but it's changing the way we think about the manufacturing cycle and the circular economy around it, starting with the end use and sort of working backwards. And so it's exciting. I've actually got a pair on the way right now that I'm fired up to use. And when you wear them out, you take them back to your nearest retailer that collects them, and then they get passed along to these facilities. And it's a really easy process to melt them down, recycle them, and ultimately they become ski boots. So it's a small step, but I think it's exciting to see things like this happening.
It's super cool. Actually, while you were mentioning that, I was actually asking some of the people who are working the machine in the background to see if we can potentially end up providing a link to the press release on it, because I saw the Instagram release on it. That was really, really cool. Neat. Meryl, can you maybe give it a little bit of background on Picture's efforts before we kind of leap into the interview that we did with Florian last week or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, for sure. So Picture's story actually starts with sustainability. We're a much younger brand compared to Salomon and Burton and the industry in general. We were started in 2008 by three best friends in France. They grew up skateboarding and snowboarding together, went their separate ways for college, and a few years in, they decided to touch base, and they'd always kind of dreamed of creating this brand that actually was very much inspired by Burton and Patagonia. They had always loved the brand philosophy of Patagonia and the style of Burton, and they kind of wanted to combine those two things, because at the time in 2008, sustainability wasn't like as big of a topic as it is now. So that was a pretty progressive especially as a start and especially so there's a lot of things that take off, and then we've grown throughout I would consider us now one of the leaders in terms of sustainable manufacturing. We brought to market a lot of new technologies and materials. We received B Corp certification 2 years ago, which was a big sort of like landmark for us, in that it's almost like a not a pat on the back, but like quite a huge accomplishment to achieve. But then also like the great thing about it is it like sets a benchmark for where you need to go, and like almost like a roadmap where to go from there. So yeah, it's like I think Picture has like a really interesting sort of approach with sustainability as well, and just a brand, and the branding is very fun and quirky, and like I said, they're three best friends, and they almost their spirit and their energy is very much what the Picture brand is all about. So it's But I think that way and that approach of communicating about sustainability like this is important to kind of get more people on the bus and aware and engaged in these topics, these issues. So yeah, really fun brand. They're primarily in the snow sports space, but we also make wetsuits and have a whole summer collection as well. And that's the Cliff Note version.
Super cool. So just to give a little bit of background, and context to the little video clip that we're going to end up seeing with Florian actually is there's an article that was posted on the Picture website, or a blog post that was posted on the Picture website about a year ago, and I would suggest that it probably gives a real background to the culture and the direction that the company wants to end up heading into. So we posed the question to Florian back 2 weeks ago, and this is his answer.
So the story behind it, behind this article, basically we were on lockdown in France. I was home. I was reading a lot of stuff about the relationship between COVID and climate. Also also with the relationship with nature, seeing that finally we were able to reduce worldwide greenhouse gases emissions thanks to such a crisis. So it's not our decision, right? It's the COVID decision. So yeah, I was just reading and hearing all this, and I was like, okay, maybe, I don't know, maybe I should write something about it for Picture. Nothing pretentious, but just the will to share our vision and our opinion about this situation, which is a never seen thing since World War II in terms of crisis and in terms of reduction in our carbon emissions. So yeah, I've started writing, and at the end it ended up with something bigger than expected. Because I also talked about science, about IPCC, about solutions in the fight against climate change, about the responsibility of companies, of states, and the fact that we should all listen to IPCC conclusions. And it ended up too with a kind of roadmap for Picture, which is built around 3 pillars: energy transition, sobriety, and our contribution to carbon neutrality. So the biggest topic concerns the energy transition we want to lead within our supply chain. So basically, when I wrote this article, we were in the middle of our own carbon footprint analysis. And at that time, I was already aware that our main emissions will come from the use of electricity to power machines in the supply chains: spinning, weaving, dyeing, finishing, and etc. Then results from that analysis came up and showed that indeed 84% of our carbon footprints come indeed from supply chains between raw materials and the finished products. So now, what does this supply chain made of? Machines. In all factories, you have machines, and you need to power them with electricity, right? So now a quick question: what is the first cause of greenhouse gases emissions in the world? Production of electricity. So you don't need to go further to understand that this energy transition is the main fight to lead at the world scale, but also in the textile industry to reduce our emissions. So yeah, we understood that. And just to make myself clear, when I talk about energy transition for electricity, in our own textile processes, I mean wiping out the use of coal and natural gas, so fossil fuels, and increase the use of renewables and nuclear power, so low carbon energies. So now we work a lot on it with our partners, with remote factories in our supply chain. And clearly, this is our biggest challenge since the beginning of the brand. So it's been 12 years. And we want to have everyone on board: factories, brands, energy, engineers, POW for sure, everyone from the industry. And to finish about this topic, I would add that there is a crucial thing to understand when we talk about energy transition, which is what we want to lead in the industry within our supply chain. What we need to understand is that we can't do it properly, this energy transition, if we keep the same amount of energy used than today. So when I'm talking about energy use, I'm talking about production. And in other words, I'm saying that the global textile industry, like many other industries, we all have to reduce our production amount in order to conduct in the same time a proper and relevant energy transition. So this is how we should see the fight against climate change: doing less and better in the same time. And yeah, all of this, what I'm just saying, made me think about the title of an Outside magazine article recently published. And the title was "True Sustainability Means Less Production." So yeah, so this topic of sobriety is fully part of our work and place for improvement alongside this energy transition within factories. And this article, it's all about that.
So I've got a question that comes out of that. So I assume, like many other companies within the apparel business, you don't necessarily own all of the elements of the supply chain, meaning some of your suppliers are arm's length or other companies. How do you work to go about to get them to end up transitioning their business? How do you get them to share the same values that you do?
It's all about collaboration. It's all about explaining them the issue, the problem, and what we need to improve. And then let's hope that they will be ready to collaborate and invest in some energy transition program with you. And as a small brand, as Picture, we really hope that such collaboration can happen, because we are so small with the factories we work with. Sometimes 1% of their volume of production. When you're only 1% of the volume of production of a factory, you want to change the way energy is consumed, you can't do anything. So you have to collaborate. That's why in our carbon footprint analysis, we tracked the whole supply chain and we identified the brands which are part of that supply chain. And now we are talking with them, explaining them the problem, and saying them that it's all about this topic now, and it should be all about this topic now in the textile industry. We all want to improve. We all want to be able to talk about it and make consumers understand that we are targeting the right topic. So let's work all together. Energy is a complicated topic. We need to get closer from energy engineers. So yeah, for sure, it's a very strong dose of collaboration and understanding the topic, the climate topic. And there is also another, sometimes it's not about changing the way your supply chain is powered by energy. You can also change the country of production and move to a production country which is already powered by low carbon energies. So for example, in Asia, the exactly same product can have a totally different carbon intensity if you want to make it in China or in Vietnam. Totally different. In Europe, it's pretty much the same with France, Portugal, low carbon countries. But if you go to Poland, coal. So it's not a good solution. So it's another solution, yeah, to move production to low carbon countries.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Clayton. So we are going to have a question for Jen now. So Jen, we were hoping that you could speak to being a B corporation. So we know both Burton and Picture are B corporations. So could you just kind of walk us through what that entails and how a company actually becomes a B corporation, please?
Sure. Yeah, Burton became certified in October of 2019. We're the first snowboard company to be a B Corp. The process really was taking stock of all the efforts that we'd already put in. So for those who aren't aware, B Corp certification looks at about 240 questions about impacts across 5 categories. So it's governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. And to become a certified B Corp, you have to achieve a minimum score of 80, which basically shows that you're going above and beyond with best practice in some areas, or really well in certain areas. And it recognizes that it's also industry agnostic. So any company, any for-profit company can pursue B Corp. It's not just about textile brands. It's not just about product brands. It's really across industries, and it's international. So by the time that Burton had started thinking about B Corp, we had made a lot of progress. We hadn't quite accomplished our 2020 goals yet, but we'd done a lot since about 2011 when we first set out to make really substantial social and environmental change. And so what B Corp did was it let us know, kind of from a benchmarking perspective, taking the assessment showed us where we stood. It was kind of a gut check on, are we looking at the right things and how are we progressing? It showed us, most importantly, as I think Maro spoke to, is what is the gap? Like what do we still have to accomplish, or what can we really be working on going forward as well? And it validated our efforts, right? We achieved the certification. It said, okay, we've made it over the threshold, right? And you never stop. There's always progression to have, but it just gave us that, like, okay, we've made it this far that we can feel really confident, really good about all the progress we have made, which honestly is quite motivating for employees and for the company on the whole to keep pushing, right? It's kind of that badge of honor. So we really pursued B Corp certification to give us that sense of community. So we work really collaboratively in the outdoor industry, with the snow sports industry, even with fashion, but it really allows us to build our community and responsible business more broadly. And so we have the benefit of working, of course, here in Vermont. We're close with 7th Generation that does cleaning products, Ben & Jerry's, which hopefully most people are aware of, and to really, reach across industries and geographies and learn from one another and really share with the community. So that's the thing that we were really most interested in pursuing the certification. And so that includes climate advocacy and climate action as well. So, one thing that for B Corps in the US and in Vermont in particular, we also had to change our legal status. So we're officially a benefit corporation legally in our registration as a corporation, which really is embedding these values into the business well beyond, let's just say we became uncertified, we chose to step away. That doesn't end because we've legally registered as a benefit corporation in addition to pursuing the certification. So it was a big decision for us, for our business, and it was one that was really aligned with our values. And we're just continually finding so much benefit in collaborating across the community.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for talking us through that. That's like a perfect comprehensive answer. So now before we move into our next discussion, we're just going to show a short video from Solomon. So this is, they have a series on YouTube. So it's the Play Sustainable Stories. This is their first episode on winter sports. So we're just going to watch this briefly.
Guys, it's Tim from Solomon. Welcome to the first episode of our sustainability series. Today we're talking winter sports at Salomon, and I do not know how to stop, but it's gonna be fun. Stick around. Salomon's origins are in winter sports with bad boys like this. And winter sports are still very much at the heart of everything we do. But when it comes to sustainability, it's probably our hardest category to tackle. Still, we're making progress. I'll start with the basics. Here in our Alpine ski department, we switched all of our ski boot boxing to FSC certified boxing. Hey, can you take that? Thanks. Oh, hi there. Well, the FSC certified boxing trend continues here in Active Protective. That's where we make poles, helmets, and goggles, and where they have a tiki bar for whatever reason. In particular, on the goggle boxes, we got rid of these windows here because that requires glue. No more glue. Now we just use this cute little box here with a picture on it. On poles, we got rid of this plastic bag we had around all our sets of poles. No more plastic bags. Now, just this little plastic piece right here that connects them. That move alone saved this many tons of plastic per year. What's next?
Snowboard.
Here in Snowboards, we removed the fiberglass from a lot of the boards and the top sheet and replaced it with bamboo, which is more sustainable. And in the sidewalls, we got rid of the rubber and replaced it with cork, also more sustainable and a damper ride. Good for table tennis as well. Sorry guys. In boots, no more plastic in the packaging. Instead, just paper. All you have to do is recycle it, go ride. Do your job.
Well, actually, Tim, do yours first. You forgot to say that all snowboard boots are 100% PFC and PVC free. Kind of a big deal.
All of our skins for backcountry skiing, splitboarding, and Nordic skiing use mohair, sourced from sustainable and cruelty-free production. What a day. So we covered most of the basics, the things we're doing today in winter sports. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, making skis like these. Let's be honest, making skis is complicated work. So we did a deep dive to find the environmental impact of the life of a Nordic ski. First of all, transporting the raw materials to the factory and then transporting our skis to you makes up 6% of the environmental impact. Lucky for us, our ski factory in Austria uses 100% renewable energy and some other sustainable strategies. That makes it one of the greenest ski factories in the world. So the production process accounts for just 19%, and the end-of-life treatment is 6% of the ski's footprint. By far, the biggest environmental impact comes from the raw materials used. That's 69%. So it made sense to focus our sustainability efforts in that area. Did you get all that? I hope you enjoyed that sexy voiceover. I'm not going to repeat it. I am going to find someone who can tell us all about this new ski, and that's my friend Alois. We're only using Alois because Jesse Diggins is a bit busy right now. Alois, I got the new ski here in hand. You're the guy to talk to. What is this?
That's the S-Max E-Skin, a totally new Nordic classic ski. The original goal was really to improve the performance, the lightness, and all of this at affordable price.
Okay, but it has to have a sustainability element or we wouldn't be talking about it on this show. What's the deal with that? Something about the core?
Yeah, we have inside the ski the equivalent of 9 recycled bottles to improve the lightness of the ski. 9
recycled plastic bottles, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been a work of 3 years.
Okay.
Really find out the best trade-off of everything. But Thomas is downstairs in the workshop.
Workshop?
So I invite you to go there.
I'll go see Thomas, but can we test it?
Yeah, we can test it next weekend if you want.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man. So I got 1 week to learn how to Nordic ski. Perfect. All right, we're going to the ski prototype area. As you can see, watch your back. There's sharp stuff in the room. This is where we make all of our race products. We make skis for athletes. We make skis to test, and then they end up in the range. We're here to talk to Thomas. He's the guy in R&D behind this new Nordic ski. How are you?
Hello, fine.
Good, good, good. He's been here for 27 years. Did you start when you were like 10 years old?
Thank you.
All right, let's go. The construction of this ski, I understand, is normally you have a totally foam core. Now, for this new E-Skin ski, you have a mixture of foam core with recycled material inside.
Yeah.
How did you do that? Took 3 years, right?
Yeah, the goal was to use as much as possible recycled materials.
Got it.
But in the same time to guarantee durability and performance. We started with 100% foam core, but testing different recycled foam materials. It doesn't achieve what we were looking for, so testing different architectures with part of recycled foam, just all the back part, recycled foam 100%, and finally a lot of prototypes, testing in the lab for breakage, on snow for performance, and then finally the best compromise was this hybrid technology with recycled and PU core.
Is it fast? I need speed out there if I'm going to keep up with Alois. He's going to take me skiing, so.
Let's go and test.
Yeah, that's the best way to go.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. All right, we'll let you get back to work. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. Hey, Jesse, how are you?
Hey, Tim. Nice to talk to you. How are you doing?
Yeah, good to get in touch. I know you're busy out there, so first of all, I wanted to say congrats on the Tour de Ski. This is a big deal. We're all excited about it here.
Thank you so much.
I'm shooting this video on sustainability. That's why I'm calling. I need your help. It's sustainability in winter sports, and I know that's kind of near and dear to your heart, right? You're doing some work in that area?
I am. I'm wearing my Protect Our Winter t-shirt right now.
Looks good.
And yeah, I'm on the board for them, trying to find that really awesome mix of taking care of our planet and advocating for climate solutions as well as ski racing at the same time. That's really near and dear to my heart.
So we have this new ski from Salomon, this E-Skin ski. It's pretty interesting, but now I have to test it with Alois, who you probably know, and I'm a little nervous because my skis are alpine skis. I haven't been Nordic skiing in a long time, and these skis are really skinny now. I need some tips, so I'm going to you, the gold medalist.
Okay, so coming from alpine to cross country, you gotta remember on the downhills, the skinny skis didn't carve. You have to step around the corners, so that's a big one.
Stepping? Okay.
The other one is that your arms should be super tired because you have to really push with your pulls, which is different from alpine side. So making sure that you're really using the pulls and send it on the downhills, but be careful.
Send it on the downhills, but be careful. Yeah, perfect. That's easy. Well, what about the glitter and the face paint? I'm thinking maybe face paint just to show them I'm for real, but glitter might be a bit much.
I don't know. I'm pretty sure that statistically speaking, glitter gives you a 10% speed increase and face paint adds another 5%. So, I mean, that's a lot of speed you don't want to miss out on.
Yeah, but that might be 15% more speed than I can handle. On the uphill. All right. Okay, it'll slow me down in the downhill. Perfect. All right, well, this is good advice. I'll let you know how it goes if I survive.
Awesome. I have so much fun. I want to hear about how these skis perform.
Yeah, thanks for joining me here. I appreciate it. I appreciate the advice. Take care.
Thanks so much.
All right, look at the pretty boy up here. Mr. Nordic. Ready for my lesson? Hey.
Hey, Tim, good to see you.
You too, man. Let's do it.
You dressed for the Olympics?
Hey, when I go for it. Let's do it.
I can see you don't even have the good colors on your face.
I know I ran out of blue, but what are you gonna do?
Let's go fix it.
Fix it. Everything?
Yeah, everything. You need to put a jersey on you and remove that.
I thought you were gonna be impressed. Voila.
Let's go.
Let's do it. Do I want to be in the track here or what?
Yeah, you can start in the track and then you walk and glide.
They're so much lighter than when I did this as a kid. It's crazy.
Yeah.
How do you get them so light?
You know, it's a racing ski, and to be honest, the PET really helps on making everything really lighter.
Yeah. Come on, Alois.
Oh! Allez, come on!
Thanks everyone for joining us on this first episode of our sustainability series. We'll have another one next month, so come back and check us out. Thank you, Alois, for joining me and for the wardrobe tips.
It was a pleasure.
If you guys have questions or comments, just pop them down below in the comments and Alois will answer them. We ready to ski?
Let's go.
Wait for me!
Never, ever!
Oh, shit! Need for speed.
Cool. Mike, can you give us a sense as to who that gentleman is?
So that's Tim Sweeney, who is the director of global communications in France. He's kind of like the lone American over there, and he's got a bit of an uphill battle culturally, as you can sense with some of his awkward comedy there. But he does a great job at it. And one of the things, you know, just in terms of Solomon, and this is a little bit my philosophy too, is we have to find a way to make this whole sustainability thing fun and interesting and something that we want to do. So much of what we talk about in the climate movement is really, I mean, let's be frank, it's depressing. There's a lot of bad news out there. And I just think it's so hard to motivate people to do the right thing when you're constantly being bombarded with the idea that everything's bad and worse and you have to stop everything and all these ideas. And so one of the things that we try to do with communication around it is make it fun, like you just saw with Tim there, and to create this idea that doing the right thing will actually make your life better. You're not going to have to give up everything, but you're going to be able to enrich your life and have a better time. And so obviously there are a lot of things that have to coordinate and be done to solve this climate problem. But one of the key factors that affects literally everything is getting the public behind the movement. And we struggle with that. And so, and with Protect Our Winters, that's one of our big goals, is to get this groundswell of energy of people saying, hey, we want to do this. This is something we're excited about. And, when I look at, I'm an EV owner, and I can tell you that it is a pleasure. Like it's one of the best moves I've made, because I love driving that little car and it makes me feel good. And I don't feel like I'm sacrificing in any way. And ultimately, I think the more that we can give people that feeling that this is something that's really positive, the better off we'll be.
Super cool. That's the first one in a series, right? There's actually more videos that are going to be coming out. I think that one other video came out already, and there's probably a few more.
Yeah, the plan is to make them once a month, and they're not always about what you saw there. They're all built around Solomon's Play-Minded program, which has different facets for social responsibility and other factors. So they kind of move around through that. And I believe they just finished, the second one's out, and they've just finished filming the third one.
Cool. So there's a lot of stuff to unpack out of that thing, and one thing that gets mentioned in there is the specific environmental impact of one of the Nordic skis. Can anybody talk about whether or not people actually do LCAs, like a life cycle analysis on their products? I mean, like does Burton actually look at the specifics of a range of boards or a specific board? And do you set objectives towards those products?
You might ask about that. And I'm wondering, do you mind if I actually share a couple of slides while I talk? Because I just presented on this at Outdoor Retailer, and I'd be happy to just visualize it super quickly. You
Go
froze
ahead.
for a minute, so I'm going to just take the reins here. Can you see all right?
Yeah.
So Florian spoke to this a bit, like what percentage of carbon emissions or greenhouse gas emission carbon equivalents are really coming from the products in the supply chain versus what's coming from the rest of the operations of a business. Burton is a brand, a manufacturer, and a retailer. So we've got a whole set of business activities that have emissions associated with them. So when we look at what matters most, you want to kind of do everything. You want to address your emissions on all levels, but you really have to focus your resources to make a real impact. So this also came through, I think, with the Solomon video, is really focusing on what's called purchase goods and services here, but basically production, what's going into the products. And what we focus on with life cycle assessment is what we call cradle to gate. So it's essentially from the extraction of the raw material or the recycling of the material as an input until the end of the finished production at a factory. So before it ships to a distribution center and then goes to a store or goes to the customer, it's really just the manufacturing phase. And so when we look at a snowboard, if we look at the winter 2017 custom model, this is where kind of our carbon footprint lands on the variety of materials. So what we focus on is how do we make material choices, improve manufacturing efficiency and the processes that are required. How do we look at the energy that's actually going into the manufacturing facilities as well, and the design of the products themselves. So we set a goal for our 2020 goals. We set a goal of a 20% carbon reduction on average across all of our snowboards between the winter 2017 season and the upcoming 2022 season. And where we landed is we actually, for our snowboards category, were able to reduce above 20% on average. So we're really excited about that. And we'll be sharing more information again in a couple of days during Earth Week. And just 4 ways that we've achieved this briefly. So product design, so no lacquer. That was also spoken about for Solomon, really looking at both a toxins reduction, so making it safer for the people doing the manufacturing, the customers, as well as the environment, and also reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the process. Something else we do is we use super sap. So it's a resin epoxy, which is made with bio-based ingredients rather than being, primarily petroleum. So it has a third of the carbon or a footprint less than a conventional petroleum material. We looked at reducing waste. So how do we just design out some of the waste, right? It's a win-win. So we're making our snowboard cores, which are wood-based, using less material on the whole. And then energy sources. Inevitably, we're trying to make products that are really going to function the way they need to. We always start with function. We always start with durability. We want to make a really high quality product that's going to meet the consumer need. So if we define it that way, eventually we get to the point where we feel that we really need to focus on the parts that are outside of the snowboard itself. And so we look at the manufacturing facilities. And so actually with our 2020 goals, we've worked with 2 of our 4 international snowboard manufacturers to install on-site solar directly as a result of our goal. And these facilities have seen really substantial reductions in their own carbon emissions from their manufacturing footprint. So these have all been, just a small subset, but of the ways that we've kind of achieved that 21% on average carbon reduction for our snowboards over the last 5 seasons.
So thanks for sharing that. I wasn't expecting that. That's fantastic. So I can tell you from my own past experiences that like nothing that I ended up doing was something that I could end up doing on my own. Like it was always a matter of trying to find like-minded people, like-minded companies to try to advance the agenda or advance the objectives. Anybody can chime in on this question, but like is there a lot of collaboration that occurs across companies in terms of their efforts?
I'll chime in a little bit here. Some, I would say, not enough, I would also say, and that we need to do a lot more together in order to really kind of hit the goals and get to where we need to get. But, I know for Picture, for example, we just rolled out a new packaging system for our products for direct to consumer, and actually even for our wholesale distribution called Roll Pack, which is removing polybags from products, and basically they're rolled together and tied together with a string or a piece of paper or something like that, eliminating the need for that single-use poly bag. Those are all then put into one larger poly bag that then is then shipped in a box, but it does ultimately reduce a lot of waste. And that was something that we learned from Prana. We learned Prana was doing it, and we reached out to them, and they were super cool and gave us all of their intel. And something that, by doing that, we were able to implement it much faster than had we sat behind and tried to figure it out ourselves. So I don't know, I'm sure Jen and Mike could speak to some other examples of it, but that was just one that came top of mind.
Hey.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that one because Burton joined the responsible packaging movement started by Prana last fall. We're really excited to be also collaborating, especially on packaging. There are a lot of things that brands can do to support our products, but if we think about the distribution model for most companies, we're really reliant on both large retailers, whether it's You've got MEC up in Canada, REI down here in the US, also Amazon, really, and then all of the smaller ski and snowboard shops as well. So we need to put in place systems that for a global company as well is able to really ensure distribution and the high quality of the product when it arrives to the shop for the consumer or at their doorstep. And we can't, as a small, if we look at in the scheme of all of the brands that are being distributed, really we play a small role. And so it's this type of relationship where we need that system change. We need all of our distribution centers to be okay with roll pack before we can really go all in on roll pack across all of the brands. So that's a really great example, packaging. And then Burton's been collaborating very actively with the Outdoor Industry Association on sustainability in general, but specifically we were founding member last year of the Climate Action Corps. And so the Corps is really focused on how do we measure, reduce, remove or compensate for emissions, advocate and engage with our consumers. So how do we look holistically across the industry at how we're taking action on climate? And the whole model is built around collaboration because we actually have a ton of shared suppliers. So it's the materials we're sourcing, but it's the manufacturing facilities that we're using. Florian also spoke to this in his video. It's that how do we come together collaboratively for social and environmental impact in a non-competitive way? And there's actually a lot of that goes on. You just don't hear that much about it, right? Because it's pre-competitive. It's before we get to the sales floor. So we're really excited to work with other companies. And like I mentioned as well with the B Corp community. And I really find, especially, partnerships with competitors, right? Burton makes outerwear, Picture makes outerwear. We've got snowboards, Mike over there with Solomon, but partnerships with competitors around issues like climate change, civic engagement, and policy are particularly compelling because they really highlight the importance of shared well-being, interdependence over the pursuit of profit. And so really that true, genuine commitment to making change for society and for the environment. So I could go on and on about how happy I am to be in my role and be able to collaborate across the industry and reach across to peers and competitors.
And Andrew, I'll just, thanks, Jen. That's amazing. I'll just add to that. And POW Canada at least has, and POW US for that matter, has become a bit of a conduit for this too. We, in normal non-COVID life, we host a leadership retreat each year where we bring our athlete ambassadors together, our chapter leads, and invite all of our corporate partners along as well. And you see those interactions happening at the retreat where people are sharing best practices and starting those relationships. And that's, I think, one of the coolest things about this organization is it brings these like-minded people together to collaborate.
So sorry.
I was just gonna say, Mike and I first met around a campfire at one of those retreats. Yeah.
Hopefully when the pandemic's over, we can actually do one of these things at a campfire. I got a question because it came up kind of in my little spiel at the very beginning, and that I'm not really sure how much thought in the outdoor community is given to end of life around apparel, around equipment, and I know from reading some stuff that Burton's made a little bit of effort in that particular area, and I think Maro, you have in an arm's length or a connection to another company that you work with about an effort that's been put in place there, and so anybody chime in and share your thoughts about what the potential possibilities are, what efforts are being put in place right now around that area.
Okay, I'll start. On the outerwear apparel side, yeah, I mean, to your point at the beginning of this call, Patagonia is definitely, I think, leading the way with their repair wear program. And on our side, on Picture, we are definitely lagging in that area. In Europe, globally, we have repair centers where consumers can send in their products and have them fixed. And we actually also use a lot of scrap or upcycled materials in our modern day products like liners from our jackets use scrap material from fabrics or from factories that would have otherwise been thrown away. But at the consumer level, even some of our jackets that are made with like recycled materials and membranes, you technically can recycle those in some ways, but you have to like butcher them, like to cut them all apart. And like there's some parts that are recyclable, some that aren't, and it's not just like throwing it in a recycling bin. There's like only certain places that you can recycle it. So we still have some progress to make there for sure. On the hard goods side of thing, it's way lagging. I'm sure Mike, actually both of these guys can attest to. You know, there's a lot of plastic ski boots that get thrown in landfills, and skis for that matter. There's a lot of issues and complexities around that. One being, I think Jen mentioned it a little bit, that you know, when you talk about producing hard goods, like durability and performance is such a primary, leading thing that we need to consider. And so you can't use as many like sustainable of these newer materials because they're just not going to perform as well and they're not going to be as durable. So there's still some progress on that side. On the end of life side of things, there's never really been any recycling programs. Technica in Europe actually just announced maybe a month and a half ago or something that we have started to implement a boot recycling program over there in partnership with a larger retailer in Europe, and then a university going to be doing the recycling side of things. And so the program works that consumers can bring their old ski boots to, I can't remember which retailer it is. It's a large international retailer over there, who will collect the boots and then give them, and then they can be broken down and recycled, similar to jackets. Like they have to be taken apart. Like you can't just do the buckles and you can't put the whole thing in. It's like pieces, and then they will recycle them. They're not going to be made into other ski boots because that kind of plastic is not going to be high performance enough to make another ski boot. So it's a start. You know, we can't implement. And for North America, we are in the early phases of research of how to implement over here. North America is more complicated for various reasons, size being an obvious one, than Europe. But like I said, it's a start, and I think it's something. The hard goods side of the business, I think, has just been slower to adjust, perhaps because it's like, you know, outerwear or apparel speaks to a broader market, whereas hard goods is specifically skiers and snowboarders. I don't know, Jen, maybe, and Mike would have some insight on why hard goods has lagged in this way, but like I said, that's a start from Technica.
So I think, you know, Burton's been using re-res or recyclamine, depending on which brand you ask the name of, which is a resin which helps us to deconstruct a board in theory in a certain chemical bath. And the problem is that to recollect the hard goods and ensure that they actually had this used in their component manufacturing and to do it at scale, and scale is really the issue here, it's really impossible right now. So when we talk about collaboration, I think end of life, especially looking beyond textiles, but at hard goods, end of life collection and processing needs to be done collaboratively, needs to be done at scale, and needs to be economically feasible. And that's not to say that brands don't need to play a role in the cost of it, but it needs to be something where things are brought to a common center in order to be processed. And it is much easier actually to consider the reprocessing for things like helmets, where you have fewer materials and the components are kind of already in their hard shapes where you can see where they fit together. Whereas a snowboard boot, which is a little bit different than a ski boot, a snowboard boot, there are like 300 components typically that are all sewn and glued together. So the deconstruction process is really quite impossible. But then we think about something like bindings. Very few materials go into those. They're usually single material per component. They're a great example of a product that you can keep the original parts in use for almost as long as possible just by swapping out components. So the way that we look at it is, again, like increasingly designing for repairability. We have, as one of our 2020 goals, we were doubling our warranty repair rate. So everything that came back into our warranty centers globally, we were trying to go from repairing 20% of those to repairing 40%. You can't repair every product. Some things just are at their end of life, but really intentionally tracking progress and really advancing efforts in that end. And then the recollection is really, the recollection and reprocessing for hard goods is, again, the sticking point. What we have done at Burton is we have piloted a re-commerce program. It's on pause right now due to COVID. We're figuring out how to make sure that we feel safe having our store staff review used gear in person, touch it, all of that. So we're working on those policies right now, but essentially the pass along program is an opportunity to have an incentive for products that are still in good quality for resale. So we might not have a recycling solution, but if your product is still in that phase where you could maybe bring it in and get, $50 or something toward a new product, if you're going to upgrade your product anyway, and then we can repair, tune up, and resell the older products. We're just offering an opportunity for our consumers, at least for our outerwear, our bags, our snowboards, to start to get into that area of circular economy. But really, it's a pilot, it's a first step, and there's a long way to go.
That's pretty cool. I mean, I'm thinking that, when you're talking about that there's, potential business opportunity for somebody to potentially, bring all of these, companies together and try to, spearhead an initiative. So that's neat. I think there's great potential there. Before we get on to the next section, actually, let's just go on to the next section.
So we were just going to ask Maro if you could speak very briefly to the belly button fluff project that Picture is working on. So we will be showing the video in a moment, but we were just hoping that you could kind of introduce the concept and the whole idea behind that project.
Sure. So to Mike's point that he made earlier about communicating on sustainability, Picture very much has a philosophy of keeping it fun and keeping it light and keeping it interesting. It's also just very true to their brand, but it's also very just true to them, the founders. Like I said before, they're three best friends. Everybody who works there is friends. We're all kind of cut from the same cloth. There's a lot of joking around and just being goofy. So this isn't the first time that we've come up with introducing a really new sustainable technology via video like this. 2 years ago, we came out with this new, the most sustainable material ever made, and it was the three founders running in a field naked and prancing around for 3 minutes all over the south of France. So this is in the same spirit of almost like poking fun at ourselves a little bit and having fun with the sustainability topic and trying to make people smile.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, we're going to show the video now.
Have you ever wondered what future clothing could be made of? A material softer than cotton, wool, and silk combined. A fabric made from a smart, revolutionary, and cooperative recycling process. No? Never heard of it? Well then, allow us to introduce the Belly Button Fluff project.
The textile industry is the second most polluting industry in the world, just after petrochemicals. That's why I help textile companies reduce their environmental footprint by working on sustainable, ecological, and economical solutions. That's how I met Picture.
After 10 years of experience, we wanted to move forward to something new, something innovative.
We add the biological and transparent side. We add the 100% renewable side. We even had developed some biodegradable clothes. But after 10 years, we really felt that we were missing something.
Something that will make a better world. Something that motivates us, unites us.
Then we really found what we were missing. What the world really needed.
Collaboration, solidarity, that's what makes the world a better place.
I think they were looking, in one way or another, to get people involved in their new collection. So we tried to look for the idea of the century, something revolutionary, a bit like fair trade, short food supply chains. We wanted the same thing, but in the ready-to-wear industry. Then one day, Vincent had an idea. I don't really know where the idea came from, but I remember he came up from under the table and shouted, "Belly button fluff." I didn't get it right away, but it was pure genius.
But wait, what is belly button fluff? Well, as the name implies, BBF is the soft, furry little ball located inside the belly button of most Homo sapiens. It forms when a piece of clothing comes into contact with the skin and usually appears late afternoon in through a strange, spontaneous process not yet clearly understood.
In fact, navel lint, that's the technical term for belly button fluff, is formed from the friction of body hair against clothing fibers. Yes, that was the day the Belly Button Fluff project was born.
On a quasiment une source inépuisable de matière, pour rien. C'est super éco. On n'a plus besoin de produire, plus besoin de fabriquer du coton, plus besoin de teindre. Je pense que l'avenir, il est réellement là.
After months of arduous testing in the lab, scientists from all over the world agree that belly button fluff is 5 times finer than the fur of the Netherland dwarf rabbit and twice as soft as a newborn baby's velvety skin.
As long as there are men, there will always be belly button fluff. It's a renewable, reusable, and never-ending resource. You couldn't dream of a better raw material.
Experts estimate that people get rid of more than 23 metric tons of BBF worldwide every day. Given that a t-shirt weighs about 200 grams, that means throwing away the equivalent of 115,000 t-shirts. What a waste!
I will never forget the day we received our first prototype. It was wonderful.
J'aurais jamais cru qu'on puisse avoir un t-shirt aussi cool.
The process had worked perfectly. It really was very moving. I almost cried. We didn't just make the t-shirt, no. We were the t-shirt. There was a little bit of all of us in that simple garment.
It takes 15,000 pieces of BBF to make a sweater. To meet consumer demand, our crack team of product designers have already developed a process to increase belly button fluff production.
One of the best ways is to increase the friction of the material fibers against the skin. And here, you can see the correlation between the different types of music and the amounts of belly button fluff production. And this peak here, that's drum and bass.
According to a recent survey, 88% of men found BBF at least once a day in their navels, compared to only 14% of women. The results confirm that hairiness plays a major role in the BBF creation process.
And so we came up with this. It's a cream that helps grow hair. It has no side effects, works really well, and it's on sale in a few weeks.
Als ich von dieser Creme gehört habe, da habe ich sie sofort gekauft. Seitdem leiste ich auch meinen Beitrag. Mein Bauch hat sich schon verändert, aber das ist für mich ganz egal.
We need your help. Whatever your gender, age or nationality, and wherever you live, you can participate in this amazing project. Without even knowing it, you possess an incredible talent, so don't waste another second. Take advantage of your power and become part of the revolution.
Yeah, I'm so proud to be part of the BBF project.
Depuis que j'envoie mes belly button fluff, ma vie a changé.
Je ne regarde plus les gens de la même façon.
To participate in this worldwide project and join the community, all you need to do is send us your belly button fluff. We will turn it into great, eco-friendly, recyclable apparel.
BBF is one of the best sustainable alternatives to traditional fabric production.
It's environmentally friendly, recycled, recyclable, reusable, renewable.
It's a worldwide collaborative project. We help each other. We work together for a better world.
De toutes les innovations qu'on a faites, je crois que vraiment là, c'est celle qui a le plus d'avenir. On est parti sur quelque chose de phénoménal. Vraiment.
I produce between 25 and 30 belly button fluffs a month. I send a package off more or less every 2 weeks.
J'ai fabriqué mon premier belly button fluff.
Sometimes I get 3 belly button fluffs during the day.
Belly button fluff simply makes the world a better place. All over the planet, more and more people are contributing to the project, creating a genuine human chain in solidarity by bringing individuals together, wherever and whoever they may be. So if you would like to make the world just a little bit smoother around the edges, send us your belly button fluff. Join the revolution.
Okay, so Maro, we just have to ask, have you been getting a lot of people sending in belly button fluff? And who is responsible for sorting through said belly button fluff?
So I personally have not, which is fantastic. I'm glad that they used the Annecy address for that, but I have been told that they actually have gotten some envelopes of suspicious body products and stuff like that. So all of that actually goes to our community manager, Shannon, who has had to open the envelopes and find surprises.
Nice. Well, Shannon deserves some sort of award, I'm sure.
Well, for sure.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And so we're going to wrap up in a few minutes here, but we're just going to take a bit of time for questions. So if anyone has questions for, one of the specific panelists, or if you just have like a general question, feel free to drop that in the chat and we'll take a few minutes to answer some questions. Okay, it doesn't look like we have anything at the moment. Oh, here we go. Okay, so Julie, who is coming in from Powell Collingwood, Julie's helping us out with this event, like I mentioned at the beginning tonight. So Julie is wondering, without disclosing any trade secrets, is there anything that we are likely to see being introduced as materials in the future? So anyone can speak to that, or everyone can speak to it, whoever feels like they want to jump in.
I'll start. I'm sure we each have some bits, but from picture, we are introducing, we introduced this last season in a smaller part of the collection, a bio-based fabric for our outerwear, which is derived from sugarcane waste. And that is now going to be implemented into 35% of our outerwear collection. So that bio-based, as opposed to using a petroleum-based or even recycled, eliminates like 30% of the carbon emissions from it. So that's pretty exciting, and it has an actual really nice supple feel to it as well. I know outside of apparel, or I think they're even using it in apparel, but you're seeing a lot more algae being used in different products. Seeing it in hard goods, seeing it in footwear a lot. You're able to make a variety of traditionally petroleum-based products using algae, which also has an added benefit of removing algae, not ponds, what's the word I'm looking for, blooms in the waterways across the U.S. So it's got added benefits there.
Okay, thanks, Mara. Jen or Mike, do either of you want to speak to that question from Julie?
I don't have any materials I can speak to, but we are excited to be putting out the first Bluesign approved gloves on the market this fall, which is really exciting. And Bluesign is basically a certification related to chemistry. So it was one of our first big moves in sustainability in 2011 was to become a Bluesign system partner. Essentially, Bluesign approved materials are made with safer chemistry than conventional. They're made in facilities that are managing the chemistry and all of the air, water, and waste emissions responsibly. We really see it as the gold standard for manufacturing from a chemistry and a material selection standpoint. So we're excited to be working with Bluesign to create the first Bluesign approved gloves because we've really been looking at apparel, outerwear, bags have kind of been the bread and butter, and we've been really helping to push the system forward in terms of the types of products like luggage, hats and gloves that are really considered as part of that. So we're excited for that this year.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Jen. We have another, oh, sorry, Mike, did you want to?
Oh, well, I was just going to chime in and say, I think the Index 1 from Solomon is the most exciting in terms of like materials, and it's interesting in just its simplicity, where if you can create something out of more simple materials, it becomes easier to recycle and to repurpose. So that would be my contribution to that. To be honest, I used to go to the Annecy Design Center in France 2 to 3 times a year pre-COVID, and I haven't been for a year and a half now, so I'm a little bit less connected than I would normally be. But I see there's another question that maybe I can start on here talk about how the materials get chosen for incorporation. You know, there's a lot of experimentation, and I think that this is a message for something to keep in mind as the world tries to solve this climate problem. We are going to make a lot of mistakes. And I think that it's important to not be afraid of that. I've been designing skis and ski equipment for 25 years now, and we've blown it way more times than we've actually gotten it right. And often to get something right takes a lot of different prototypes and versions along the way. And I think that the public and society is a little bit too what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit too uptight about, you know, oh, that technology is, you know, was a waste of time or waste of money. And sometimes you have to recognize that you have to go through these difficult steps to get where you want to be in the future. And I think this is a time where you know, governments and corporations and things should be investing in taking those steps and experimenting and trying to figure this stuff out, because it's going to have to go through a process to get there. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you for bringing up that important point. Miro or Jen, do either of you want to add anything into that question about the design process and how various materials are chosen?
I'll let Jen could probably talk more about that than I can. You know, being in California, far away from the design center, like Mike said, I'm not as closely involved with it, so I wouldn't want to say anything inaccurate.
Yeah, I'll just say that it all starts with validation, right? So we can identify a lot of really cool, innovative materials, but again, if they're not going to last, if your garment is going to function for half as long as the period of another material, you really have to think hard about, is it worth making 2 garments to last 10 years or one that has a slightly higher footprint? And so we're always thinking in that vein of, are we at least meeting, again, the customer need, the functional need of the product? And is this actually a substantial improvement, or would it be kind of a PR talking point? And so we always start from that point of, is this a long-term sustainable change, or is it a regrettable solution? So again, I'm not on the design or development team, but I work very closely with those partners. And that's really where we start from. I can, if you don't mind, I can answer the question a bit about the, I think from Jacqueline, about collaborating with government. So just as an example, Burton's also has a strong stance against the use of fluorinated chemistry. We haven't been able to fully eliminate it from our durable water repellency on our highest end, kind of our professional end line that's really supposed to last multiple days in the backcountry. But we have eliminated it from 78% of all of our products fully that have DWR coding. And one thing that we've done from a policy standpoint is we actively worked with the government here in Vermont on policy related to the elimination of fluorinated chemistry in certain products. And it was related to making sure that we're really supporting safe drinking water. So in the snow sports industry, what we're really talking about is traditional ski and snowboard wax. And again, that DWR, durable water repellent coating. And so we've actually had a seat at the table in crafting the policies that are now in place in the state of Vermont, not just kind of advocating for them to move forward. So I think there is a lot of opportunity in the local and the federal level, in addition to kind of speaking out on the larger climate topics, which might be kind of more on a larger stage.
Okay, that's awesome. We are aware that we're running a little over time here, so we don't want to keep anyone on too long, but we're just going to quickly speak to Clayton's question. So Clayton is just curious, how do brands like Burton or Picture or Solomon work with POW, and how does POW collaborate with brands for the better good, and what does that kind of relationship entail?
I'll let Jen or Mike go on that, since I don't manage the relationship with POW, so I don't want to.
Well, Jen, why don't you start and from your side on Burton, and then I'll just bring it in from sort of more the POW perspective.
Sounds great. And I'll just say, you know, for Burton with our relationship in POW Canada, POW Canada's strategy is just focused on some different things than they are in the US. So I'll give a little example of the US, but just know that it translates a little bit differently for how our partnership might look like in other countries or other regions. So I mean, in the most basic terms, thinking about like advocacy, what does that mean? It means we show up in Washington, D.C. You know, I'm at the Capitol. I'm with Danny Davis and others on our team, directly speaking to elected officials about the policies that we need them to pass or the ways that we want to see them addressing climate. It means writing letters and many other things that are kind of the traditional like advocacy. But a lot of what we do is help to spread awareness and really grow the community of those that are following POW and therefore individuals that are taking actions. We know specifically from Burton's consumer insights research that our customers, even more than the general US outdoor enthusiast, really are looking to us to help give them ways to engage on climate specifically, and they are more actively engaged already on climate. So the way that we kind of translate that with POW is through things like you know, product collabs and more kind of marketing and awareness related, but through getting people out to vote. So we had a really big Fight for the Future campaign to improve voter participation this fall in the US, and POW is a really important partner in that. So we had a widget on a pop-up window on our burton.com homepage to help people get registered and find their polling location or request a ballot, and a lot of additional messaging and resources around really who should they be voting for if what they care about is climate and really strong policy going forward. So we really leverage the relationship as much as possible to rally the community, build awareness, and really give people a call to action. We always want to say, like, this is what we care about, here's what Burton's doing, but really this is what you can be doing to take action as well.
And Burton has been a really great partner for Protect Our Winters Canada in the US for many years. Definitely one of the pillars that helps keep the organization alive. And when it comes to different brands, I mean, everyone's a little different, to be honest. Everyone has their own priorities. Some brands are really interactive and want to be involved in the decision-making processes and very proactive. And other brands are kind of like, keep it a little bit more at a distance. And that's why we have tiers and different levels that brands can come in at. And, you know, we're trying to make this organization as inclusive as possible and also as effective as possible. And honestly, when brands come in and they're contributing to the bottom line, that helps our staff work and get things done and helps support programs like our regional chapters, our Hot Planet Cool Athletes programs, and those sorts of things. And so it really varies. But one thing I can say, after a fairly challenging 2020 with Protect Our Winters Canada because of COVID and the uncertainty around that, 2021 seems to be rebounding quite well. And we've had a lot of interest in the last couple of months, especially. And we're feeling like we're in a good spot heading into summer, and we're actually looking to hire some more staff so that we can activate on a higher level.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Mike. So we just wanted to say thank you so much to everybody for joining us this afternoon. And thank you to Protect Our Winters staff. Thank you to the Ottawa chapter, Collingwood chapter, and Toronto chapter. Like we said before, if you are not involved in a chapter already, we really, really encourage you to do so. It's just such a great way to get involved and make more connections, and it's a really great sense of community. So you can go on the Protect Our Winters Canada website and you can see all the local chapters there. If there's not a chapter currently in your area, you're welcome to start one as well. Every chapter in Ontario has a Facebook page. So if you go and like those Facebook pages, you can see kind of all the events that we're putting on. And thank you so much again to Mike and Jen and Moreau for sharing all of your knowledge and your time with us this evening. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming in.